Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Unpopular Review Entertainment. I am one of your hosts, the Executive Consultant, and we are here to continue on our franchise with none other than Independence Day, starring Harrison Ford, along with Sean Connery. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't here last week when they reviewed, what was it, the Temple of Doom? Yeah, the Temple of Doom. I was so sad because I actually watched that movie and I was excited to talk about it. But I'm here today. I'm going to incorporate some of last week into it, but I'm going to talk about today. I'm not alone. Of course, I have my partner, my man, the guy that you don't want to ask a stapler to. That's the inside joke. The next doctor. What is going on with you tonight?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's all you got. Last but definitely, certainly, and ultimately not least, we have E Boogie looking absolutely ravishing. What's going on, E?
You shouldn't be surprised.
Never, ever have I been surprised. Let's just talk about it. Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. This movie came out, and I don't remember when. But the funny part about this movie is that it was supposed to be the last one of the trilogy. But then they have another one like 20 years later. But did this movie feel like it was a good movie? Was it a good follow for the second one? I know some people have a thing for Harrison Ford. Was he looking just as scrumptious, whatever the hell they call it, in this movie as they search for the holy grail for eternal life in this movie? Next, Doctor, let's talk about it.
Well, I want to start out by showing some appreciation to the score in this movie. Composer John Williams, and if you are any type of, musical composer aficionado for movies, you will definitely recognize that name because they composed one of my favorite themes of all time, the original Superman, Christopher Reeve. Definitely love that one. And you could feel throughout this movie that it was a grand adventure because of the music. It had that punch that accentuated all of the scenes. Whenever there was a hero moment, when there was a villain moment, romantic moment, that music just capped it off superbly. So I think they did a great job on the sound design. And this definitely was a grand adventure. I can see how this was set to be the last one. I think that they definitely threw out all the stops. You've got the opening scene, and I like how they incorporated the scar that Harrison Ford actually has with history of Indiana Jones. When he first used the whip, he hit himself, and then later on, they, kind of showcase his chin a little bit. They put it in the hero spot and kind of give that continuity of it. I thought that was a nice touch, incorporating a real life scar into the movie. It also showed his persona, the Indy that we grew up with, the Indy we've seen for 2 movies now. This will be the third one. He's got that, gruff persona with the leather jacket and the hat, and now the bullwhip, from the guy that, he couldn't escape the first time. His first tomb raid, as it were. Then, of course, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I always love that aesthetic of showing the overlay of the map as they're going to a different place, kind of having that segue, kind of the calm moment, just showing how they're traveling. I really, really dig that. I always thought that was a great aesthetic for them to put in there, And I mean, again, this is an action movie, adventure movie. You could see it from everything that they did. I mean, I don't know what the budget was. I didn't look at this, but it had to be a good budget because they definitely had some nice effects in there. The boat chases, the tank chase, the catacombs with the fire, all of the rats. Them at the end in all of the trials. This was definitely a fun ride. And also my favorite trial, the one in the back, you can see it there. When I was a kid growing up watching this, I always thought that was the coolest thing. He just steps out and it's like an invisible path, and they pan it to the side, and you see, oh, the rock just really blended in. I always thought that was the coolest effect ever. Looking at it now, doesn't quite hold up as well under an HD lens, but still fun. And of course, you got the Nazis. Who doesn't like beating up some Nazis? We even got a glimpse of DeSantis' version of Florida when they were burning books. I thought that was a nice foreshadowing of today's climate. This movie was just really fun. There's a problem there, Mr. Executive Consultant. You're in Florida right now.
Boogie,
any pillars of burning books.
Boogie had to unmute herself to let everybody hear her laugh, her chuckle.
I'm sorry. It's so good and so apt.
Like, I don't understand what's all this hate toward my state that I've been getting lately. But I need y'all to relax.
I don't hate Florida in and of itself.
Good.
You just got a really crappy leader. That's all.
Yeah, who'd you vote for, Executive?
Indiana Jones is a movie that I noticed in the second rendition. Because I gave the first one a thumbs down. But in the second rendition, I noticed that this movie was feeling a little bit like another movie that I am a fan of. And I had no idea because I never wanted to see Indiana Jones. The concept never would interest me. But then I was forced to watch this because this was picked. I didn't vote for it, but this was picked. And I'm like, wow, this is showing me a lot of feeling like something. And then I'm about to get to my third one, but I want to go ahead and pass the ball to Boogie-licious E Boogie down there so she can tell us her thoughts without laughing at my state of this movie.
You guys, I gotta say, I've watched this movie a cotillion, gatillion, gazillion, trillion, billion times. An infinite amount of times. I'll probably watch it an infinite more amount of times. If I have children, my children will be watching this an infinite cotillion million times because it's just a wholesome family feature. I love the adventure that it brings. And as a kid, I really loved it because I was in a Christian household. Like, that's how I was raised. And I never really got a chance to see Christianity and kind of like the lore and mythology be woven into a story that drew on interests of mine, right? With like an action aspect to it. It just I've never seen a movie that wasn't like a depiction of something that came from the Bible or story from the Bible that weaved the kind of mythology and lore of the Bible into a more modern day scenario. And that's what this movie brought to me. And I absolutely adore it. I feel like it not only piggybacks on some of the moral and echoes some of the energy that the Raiders of the Lost Ark presented first, but it also captured like this interesting dynamic between father and son that I thought injected a lot of heart into this series. And I want to just say about this original trilogy that this was the last of the original trilogy. I'm not on cam. Feel free to. This was the last of the original trilogy, and it should have been the last of the series. Now, I say that on the helm of the newest iteration coming out. I'm really looking forward to a redemption arc with this new installment. That being said, this movie specifically is just epic. I mean, it captures the same energy of the other films with kind of the action adventure, the somewhat moral ambiguity, but justification around straight up murking Nazis. You know what I mean? In front of your parent, right? And it really has that fervor of patriotism and American intellectualism and trying to preserve important historical artifacts and just it just really gives you something to get behind, and I really wish I could get behind Indiana Jones. But Harrison Ford was really great in this. We had a new damsel in distress. They're replaceable in these like older movies, but they all have their own interesting little whatever. And Fraulein, Doctor, whatever her name is, Blondie McBoob, she was interesting to a point in that I love the complexity of her like double crossing, and I also doubly love that she had both the Jones men on the her fingertips. She had a moment where she could have had her redemption arc toward closer to the end. But then again, I don't know, man. There's something about that that white woman that y'all just, will fully go against all logic for. And she preyed upon that. And I don't know if I admire it or find it disgusting. I don't know. Jury's still out on that. This movie in itself, awesome. Love the action. Does it stand up to my standards of today kind of action history, whatever? I don't know. But it was very nostalgic watching this again. I'm so grateful to be talking about it. Oh, also Sean Connery. Oh my God. Hubba hubba. Right? Am I right? Still.
I mean, I don't know about that.
I mean, not today, because he's dead, but definitely hubba hubba back then. Hubba hubba pretty much until I want to say League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Whatever. He stands the test of time. Love him.
I mean, I can give you Harrison Ford, but I don't know about Connery.
James Bond, come on, one of the Bonds.
Back then, yes, but he was much older at this point.
And he could still, well, not at that point he could. Well, maybe not. I was a child. Point being, if we were both consenting adults at the right time and place, that's the point. Sean Connery, big ups to you. Love you. Can't wait to see you in heaven.
Right in the tank, huh?
Wait a minute. That sounds really sticky. It probably stunk in there. I'm sure they had to make a lot of cuts and redos in that smelly tank. No, thank you. Right time and place. As I say, right time and place.
Okay. All right.
All right, Fraulein.
Hi. Not negating anything anybody said.
But.
Exactly. Do you not see why they put Sean Connery in this movie? No one sees it? The second movie was nothing more than a James Bond movie.
Which I mentioned last time.
Good.
But I also mentioned that he's no 007.
He is no 007.
Because he got, he had the person right there in the propellers threatening their life. And the dude was like, I'm cool with it. If he was a real Bond, he would have got the information. So, that's all.
Americans do it the hard way, rough and tough.
But he had the original James Bond, the original action hero, right next to him. He didn't teach him a few tricks. He didn't tell him to go call Q.
He probably taught him some tricks. That's why they were both in the bedroom with the same Fraulein.
He's not a field man, the dad.
I just don't understand.
Hi, Charmaine. I'm sorry. Hi.
Why they had to copy off of James Bond so much? It's supposed to be an archaeological movie. No, it wasn't working for me. I couldn't stand the fact that I never wanted to see it. It so bored me when I was growing up, right? But then I realized that I saw the very last scene. Well, not the very last scene, but I saw the scene when they got the Holy Grail and then the guy turned whatever did. I saw that scene when I was like, 5, 6 years old. And I thought it was stupid then, and I think it's stupid now. Right? The villain, you can see coming a mile away. As soon as he got on screen, I said, there you go. That's the guy. You know how I know? He plays a James Bond villain. This is clearly a praise to James Bond 007, one of my favorite franchises. So I'm not saying I hate it. I'm just saying I can't have the love for it that other people do. I can't watch this a billion, kajillion, zillion, tillion, 29 million times. I can't abuse my child by making him or her watch it a billion, jillion, kajillion, trillion times.
You don't have American values, and that's okay.
They weren't even in America.
And democracy can't just stay in one nation. It must spread far and wide.
You know what?
Like a fire burning across the land.
We were over here talking politics earlier, and I swear somebody is just creating their own narrative right now. I don't know what you're doing. Okay,
DeSantis?
This wasn't it, but we're going to talk more about it in our final thoughts as well as thumbs up and thumbs down. Hey, we got a lot of stuff coming up this Thursday. Find out what we're reviewing. Stay with us. You're watching Unpopular Review.
At Carolina Pines, the membership is reserved, but they're about to meet a man.
I'm in search of an application, sir.
How are you with a shovel?
Shovel?
Did he call you a Hold it! This is a very exclusive club.
Who doesn't take no for an answer.
Oh! What the hell are you doing on my golf course?
Shooting a music video.
You see that line? It represents the property line of that estate. Guess who closed escrow yesterday?
Who's your caddy?
Let's go, man.
You know, the theme for this month is movies, bad movies that we love. Now, some of us were smart enough to say, I'm not signing up for that. I'm not going to mention any names. You just know he is on this episode. However, some of us said, you know what? I'm going to do it because this is what we do. And then Who's Your Caddy, please? But Who's Your Caddy coming up this Thursday. We were missed a few Thursdays. I was sick and people got to work. But we're going to do Who's Your Caddy this Thursday as well as Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
A classic.
Not going to say who mentioned that. We do have one more movie that we have to review. We're going to talk about when we're going to do that, so stay tuned to all our social media. But those two movies definitely on Thursday at 8:30 and 9 o'clock, respectively. I'm Bezek Consultant, this next sector. And E-Boogie. E-Boogie, we'll start with you. Final thoughts, thumbs up, thumbs down. I wonder what's it going to be.
Anywho, this movie, you know, it's one of those wonderful and anomalic exceptions that makes me feel patriotic, that makes me feel part of something bigger, like part of something moving forward at a steady pace, something that feels outside of myself, you know? And those are few and far in between, things that inspire that feeling inside me. And this is one of those things inside me. And I want to say for that, I have to give it a thumbs up.
Next, Doctor, we're on you as E-Boogie gives it a thumbs up.
You know, as I mentioned, the score in this movie is great. It drives home the adventure. You know, I like seeing the way that Harrison and Sean played off of each other. You know, I think they had a great dynamic, great chemistry on scene. You know, I love seeing a little bit of background that we get for Indy. You know, what drives him to really do what he does. You know, even seeing that kind of resolution to the father-son bond that they didn't really have over the years. You know, we even get a hand wave of, because, you know, throughout this movie, at least at the beginning, you know, Dad Jones is like, oh, you know, kind of chastising with a look every time Indy, you know, does something destructive. But then he winds up, you know, doing the same thing. I mean, he blows up a truck full of soldiers. Granted, they're Nazis, but still, lives taken. And he hand waves and said, hey, it's war. Meh. But, you know, if I saw DeSantis burning books, I do the same thing. So for that reason, I definitely have to give this a thumbs up. Let's bring it home, Florida man.
The criteria for any movie is, did I enjoy it more than the Batman? Let me tell you, when it comes to Indiana Jones and the Hidden Temple of Doom, since I wasn't here last week and I had to watch it, I want to give my thumbs up, thumbs down. Once again, I'll let you know that the criteria is it better than this movie? Let me tell you something. I was upset that it was such a ripoff of James Bond. Such a ripoff of James Bond. Harrison Ford is no Sean Connery. He is no Pierce Brosnan. He is no Daniel Craig. He's no Timothy Dalton.
Who?
But it was better than the Batman. I enjoyed that movie better than the Batman. This movie was not as good as the second one for similar reasons.
What?
Hot take.
This was not as good. The second one was the best Indiana Jones movie I've ever seen.
You smoking that crack? Is that what you smoke?
The best Indiana Jones movie I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
The most entertaining Indiana Jones movie I have ever seen. I felt that lead character that was a woman. I don't remember her name, forgive me, but I felt her pain a lot through that movie. That's why it's one of the greatest movies. Her what?
You felt her pain?
Her pain.
What'd you say?
I said her pain, E-Boogie.
Nah, yo, I heard what I said. When
You heard what you said, yeah. But I felt her pain throughout the entire movie. I didn't feel you're such an asshole. I did not feel anybody's pain in this movie but my own. But it was better than the Batman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us here at Unpopular Review. Please make sure you join us on Wednesday, I think, for the very final episode of the Gotham Knights Drunk Review with Cedar Superior and Bad Guy Jack, as well as DeMarco Victor Rodriguez. And then join us on Thursday. We'll review Who's Your Caddy, as well as Killer Clowns from Outer Space. For E-Boogie. What was that?
Boy, what?
Okay. For E-Boogie, the next doctor, I'm the executive consultant. We will see you right here next time on Unpopular Review. I am going to have to find a new thing because everything's better than Batman, so it's not.